are being developed around medical devices and healthcare technology. So we're going to have an extremely interesting panel today. And I would like to invite our panelists to the stage. I'm going to name them one by one. So, of course, first one up is our moderator, Ola Bahar Salameh. You can applaud her. She's a pretty incredible lady. So give it to her. Ola is the founder of Grow On, and she also has a lot of previous founding initiations. She'll tell you a bit about herself. Next one up is Marie-Lour Schuffelberger. I've said it right, kinda. And you can keep on applauding, you know, it's just a nice thing to do. Marie is a senior product specialist at thematic equities at PAM. And I would like to invite Mahmoud Kayal, Dr. Mahmoud Kayal, CEO at Wikaya. And I would like to invite Dr. Jack Crandall. He's not, stop clapping, he's not here. We're going right up to Jonathan Wexler, and please cheer for him. He's the Executive VP R&D at Orcam. They're doing incredible things. Have a great panel.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Boker Tov, Sabah al Khair. Thank you for attending to this very important panel. I'm Ola. I will represent myself shortly. I am a previous CEO of a pharmaceutical company located in Nazareth, in the south of Israel. I'm currently running my own company, Grow On, which is a company that gives business and marketing solutions for early stage biotech startups and a co-working space in the north of Israel for the young entrepreneurs. Enough about me, and I will present, or the panelists will present themselves, and we will try to answer a short yet very complicated question, and that is, can health technology actually keep people out of the hospitals? So let me please give the stage to our panelists to introduce themselves, and then we'll start our discussion.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to be here today. My name is Marie-Laure Schaufelberger, and I work within Pictet Asset Management in a team that looks at investing in future trends. So going anywhere from nutrition to healthcare, biotechnology, clean tech. I feel like a bit of a fish out of water here because I'm more on the listed equity space and less on the startup space, but really looking forward to sharing with the panelists today.
Hi, my name is Mahmoud. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Wikaya. Wikaya is prevention in Arabic. It's an AI-based platform for improving prevention of chronic diseases. So basically, we use the power of artificial intelligence to prioritize recommendations, not just based on the impact they should be creating, but also on the likelihood that the users are going to do these recommendations. Previously, I used to be a physician. I practiced family medicine for about 10 years. And I previously founded WebTip, which is pretty much like WebMD, but in Arabic. As of today, it's the largest medical and health portal in Arabic with more than 10 million users a month. It's a company based in Haifa, Ramallah, and Dubai. And yeah, I'm looking forward to speaking about these new challenges. Thank you.
And I'm Yoni Wexler. I'm heading the R&D at Orcam, where we strive to bring the progress in information theory and computers to everybody's life. Our first product that we did was for blind people and visually impaired that can tell them the information they can't see or they can't see very well. And our next product is going to be for everybody that will help us in our daily lives and give us the information that we really don't notice through our life that can make our lives much better. And I'm be happy to talk about how this can improve our health.
So, Dr. Mahmoud, you founded a very special and unique platform. we would like to hear more about it and how is it related to, health technology and prevention?
Yeah, so basically, if you look at it, when it comes to chronic diseases, so it's like more than 70-80% of the healthcare cost goes to chronic diseases. But on the other hand, 80% of these diseases can be prevented. And about half of the deaths of chronic disease can also be prevented. And people know what they should do. I mean, people know that prevention measures are very well known. Everyone's trying to, to push people to do more for their health, including me. And the real problem relies in compliance. So just people, whether the major challenges of prevention are compliance and awareness. And we're trying to tackle this by personally customizing these recommendations and the content based on what people will be more likely engage with. If there is another way to do it, some order of doing things, break down tasks, and just doing all of that and analyzing the data, reading more and learning more about the individual and the other people and the other people like the individual, and try to see how we can more customize these recommendations so we'll get people do more. And not just, because as of today, the recommendations have very simple order, which is what is more important. If it's more important to stop smoking, so the focus is going to be about stopping smoking. But if stop smoking is going to give you 300 points, and the likelihood that you will do it is 10%, while there is the cutting red meat is going to give you 100 points, but the likelihood that you will do it is 50%. So it's obviously it's more efficient to start with cutting red meat and figure out how you can improve the 10% of stop smoking. That's in a nutshell what we do.
Thank you. Jonathan, you also have very interesting technology, and can you further talk about your technology and how do you help certain people?
With pleasure. We find it unbelievable that we live in the 21st century, and when we see a blind person, we know they are blind because they have a dog or a white cane. And surely we can give people with low vision much better life experience nowadays with all the technology and everything we can do that we couldn't do before. And for this, we created this device, which is this tiny finger-sized device that you can put on your glasses, and it speaks to you, and it tells you the information your eyes can no longer tell you. And it's a tiny thing, and it's very, very robust. And everything happens inside this device, so nothing is being transmitted elsewhere. So you can read whatever you want, and you can socialize with people because it'll tell you who they are. And with such a device like this, a kid can go to school, and even if they can't see very well, they can succeed, and they can excel, and they can do the amazing things their brains lets them do, even if they have a limitation in seeing. And we believe that this is the future. This is where things are going, with devices that helps us overcome the shortcomings that we have, because none of us is perfect. And we all have things that we excel at and things that we suck at. And we want to take these things that we're bad and level them up. So for blind people and people with low vision and even people with dyslexia, we have lots of kids using it with dyslexia. This device is a life changer because all of a sudden they're not prevented from understanding what's around them. And once we got this in the market, and this is selling in millions, we started getting a lot of very, very interesting feedback. One of the feedback that we got came from a health insurer, which said, we had this customer that we spent lots and lots of money on, and we couldn't figure out the problem that they had. And it turned out that they were taking the wrong medicine. They just got confused. It turned out their issue was a derivative of their low vision. And a device like this can change their life, can make their lives better, can make the healthcare more effective and more accurate. And this is amazing. It's one of those amazing things that you couldn't even do 10 years ago. And now, with technology like this, that is personal, it's private, and it's geared for you, and you know exactly what it does, can give you the tools to improve everything else. Because us humans, we're amazing. And if we get the right information, we'll know what to do with it, mostly. Yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. Marie, you've listened to two entrepreneurs and two great technologies, and from the investor point of view, what are the parameters, or how do you decide to invest in such technologies?
So we're looking for several things, right? We're looking, first and foremost, the team that I work in, we're really looking for themes that are benefiting from very powerful long-term trends. So we can call them mega trends, secular trends, and they involve demographics, so aging of the population, technology development, sustainability, things like that. And when we're looking at healthcare, and this is something that really struck us, we're talking about healthcare all the time. But often what people are really talking about is in fact sick care, or dealing with people that are already sick. And we need to start putting prevention, and we need to start putting and allocating capital to much smarter technologies and ways to keep people healthy longer. And this is going to be key going forward as we age and as the global population ages. Today we spend roughly 60-70% on dealing with people that are already sick. We should actually be turning that around and spending maybe 30% on dealing with people that are already sick, and spending 60-70% of that capital on prevention, on things like better nutrition, diagnostics, on reducing waste in this system. Because otherwise it's just not sustainable. And we talk a lot about sustainability in the environmental context, with pollution, et cetera, but we need to start talking about sustainability as well in a social context, and how technology can really help us deal with that. So when we're identifying business models, that's what we're doing. We're trying to find which ones are the business models of the future that have solid science or solid technologies to improve efficiency in the system.
Thank you. We had a discussion earlier regarding to the regulation, and if we can if we can make a clinical use of all the information gathered in the app, for instance. So can we do that? Can we take the information today and prescribe prevention medicine for the client? I won't say the sick or the ill or the patient. He's not a patient yet. So can we do it? Are there any regulations that forbid us from doing this? FDA approved?
Well, I think it's a bit related to what was mentioned earlier. So when it comes to prevention, we should remember always that it's an ongoing process. It's not just about preventing diseases. Prevention has basically 3 layers. It's primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. So there is a primary prevention, is preventing the diseases, dealing with the risk factors, which is most of the effort should be allocated there. And there is the secondary prevention, which is diagnostics, early diagnosis and early detection, which is basically the screening test and all of that. And there is the tertiary prevention. People can have diabetes and still live and function very regularly if they prevent the complications of the chronic diseases to develop. So prevention is an ongoing process of throughout the whole life cycle. Even if people are sick, there is a lot to do about prevention. So this is one. 2, I think when it comes to technology and using data as part of it, and this is, as a physician, one of the challenges I had dealing with other stakeholders in this industry. Because technology and using data were not meant, and in my opinion, will not be able to cure diseases. It's about delivering the treatment and the services that the healthcare system can do more efficiently, in a better way, more personal, cutting the waste that there is in healthcare. But you cannot expect, in my opinion, as a physician, as a conservative physician, you cannot expect technology to, deliver a new treatment. It can make treatments go better, reduce side effects, and all of that. It's exactly, in my opinion, like expecting e-commerce companies to create more products. They are not creating more products. They give you the way to pick and find cheaper prices and better products and deliver it on time and all of that. It's exactly the way I look at it, at digital health in general. And in my opinion, digital health companies are not health companies, they are technology companies. So if we make this switch in the mindset about digital health, I think we'll be able to look and evaluate companies in a better way. So there are always going to be regulations, and then when it comes to regulations, it's not about technology, it's about the health and the privacy and all of that. But I don't think this is an obstacle. There is always a way to do it. I mean, nothing will stop delivering a new treatment really if it's proven efficient. They will find a way to work around or to modify whatever regulations there are. So I don't think, as entrepreneurs, we always we look at the opportunity. Once we find the solution, we look how we really can find a way to deliver that. Creating value, the bottom line, creating value is really what all of this is about.
Yeah.
So I want to go a step ahead, the next step, I think, from what you were saying. We all live our daily lives, and we all know our life, and we know, I feel bad today, I feel better today. And our brains are mostly busy in making us more happy and suffer less. That's what our brain optimizes on a daily basis. And if we can get the information, and we can get the tools to measure the things that really affect us, it'll make our lives much better. If I go to the doctor because something hurts, I may be 2 months, 2 years, 15 years too late. If I had only known it in advance, I could have avoided that altogether. Maybe, and there's that old story of the guy who says that he's allergic to tea, right? Do you know this one?
No.
Seriously? Wow, you need to read more. This guy goes to the doctor and says, I think I'm allergic to tea. And the doctor tests him, and they do all this battery of tests and say, eventually the doctor tells him, well, before you drink the tea, and he said, why do you think you're allergic? He says, well, I always tear when I drink tea. I have tears all the time. So the guy tells him, well, just take the spoon out, and you'll stop tearing. And a lot of our lives is like that. You're not sure what you're doing. You think it helps you. You think if you eat more kale, you'll be better. You think if you don't eat donuts, you'll be better. But maybe it's not. And we're now in a situation where we can have something which is completely personalized to us. And we can use ourselves as our own barometer. Because if we do something and then we feel better, maybe it's better for us. And if we do something we feel worse, maybe it's worse for us. But we need the ability to have that information. And this can give us a huge step forward. And when we go to the doctor, we can give the doctor much more information. And the doctor can be smarter about the high-level view that they give us. And I think that's where things are going. That's where we would like them to go. And we'll spend more time on ourselves and less time on our sicknesses.
I think I totally agree, and I think the whole notion of personalized medicine going well beyond like medication that's adapted to your genome, but what are the technologies, what is that ecosystem, I've heard that word I don't know how many times since I started yesterday, around a patient, around a human being to help them be healthier longer. And what's really interesting now is we're seeing some of the biggest players in the industry, so much less the startup space, but come to the traditional players like health insurances, starting to move in on this space. And we're also seeing outside players that are starting to move in on this space and creating new and innovative partnerships. So for example, you must have probably read beginning of this year, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, Amazon, getting together to create a new venture together as a joint venture to reduce the costs for their employees. Now, that's the tip of the iceberg, right? They have 1 million employees together. JP Morgan says they're driven by costs, right? They want to reduce by 20% the costs that they pay out for employees. Amazon obviously is super attracted to an industry with extremely high margins, and that's what they do. They break down margins. And we're seeing, and Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett, that says, you know what? Healthcare costs in the US are like a tapeworm on the US economy, right? So he's looking at it from an economic perspective. And what are these guys doing? Well, they're creating a venture to be able to reduce costs throughout the system, to be able to leverage information that's already out there in a smarter way. They have their employee information, right? But this is going to cause also a number of issues on the privacy side, and I think that's going to be a little bit maybe the bottlenecks.
Thank you. I still have a question. I'm from the pharmaceutical field. I'm not from the field of technologies, and so I'm still looking for the answer of the regulation part. As a CEO that have developed a drug for 3 years, I'm so restricted, and I follow the rules, let's say. So what about you guys in your technologies? Do you think that you need an FDA approval to withdraw the data for the patient before they become diabetic patients, before they got cancer? There are indications on the way. So can you take this data and use it for prevent this patient from becoming?
Hey, do you want to go first? Okay. So I think there's a paradigm shift that wasn't there before. Medicine is a statistical science, and the FDA role is to make sure that a treatment will have proper statistical outcome. But statistics is about large numbers, and all the tools we had, all the mathematics we had, the economical infrastructure for dealing with patients is statistical, right? We need to have a doctor per these many patients, just like we need to have a teacher for these many students. Nowadays, two things have changed. One is that we can collect much more data. You go to the doctor, he doesn't have to resort to heart rate and blood pressure. Now you can get much more information. It goes to the extent that if you go to do a CT or MRI, the doctor can't even look at all the information that the machine gives them. It's too much data. So we have much, much more data, and this is scary in a sense. The other thing that happened, which is a bit later, we got used to thinking of big data as something which is cloud, which is for everybody. But this, again, is no longer the case. We all carry in our pocket something which is stronger than the personal computer we had a few years ago. We have something which is with us. Again, it's a mixed blessing, because the way it's done now, it's not really our computer. But we can have a tool that is with us and knows us and can help us, and we can use it to help us, and we can show the doctor, here, this is my information. It doesn't have to be something which all of a sudden broadcasted everywhere. And if you have some disease, that information will go somewhere where you don't want it to go, and someone will use it against you. And these two changes open up a lot of opportunities that at Orcam we're leveraging, because we're giving you personalized information, something that's for you, and it's just for you. And if you want to share it, you can share it, but it's for you. It doesn't go to us as a company. And I think this opens up a whole new range of possibilities for healthcare to help us on a personal level.
Well, I think the whole issue of data and using data is a serious one, but it's it's easy, because the regulations are very well known. There is the GDPR for the European Union, and there is the HIPAA regulations in the States. In Israel, it's the ISO regulations that apply, and you just give it to a lawyer. There are specialized companies that take your technology and tell you what you need to do. I didn't hear about a solution that had a real issue of using this data, using the data, and this was the main obstacle and the main challenge why they couldn't deliver their solution. But I think there's another thing about AI, which is a bit, contradicts what I've just said here, which is medicine is not about statistics. Regulations are about statistics. when we come to create a new drug, we don't do it based on statistics. We do it based on science. There needs to be a real, rational, scientific rationale, mostly, I have to say, on whether this can fit a certain disease or can cure, can have any side effects. But when it comes to regulations, when it comes to approvals, the regulators need to see statistical data that supports that, one, this is efficient and there is no side effects and all of this stuff. But I think that the main issue with using data and AI in general, the way I understand it, I'm not a tech guy, as I said, I'm a physician, is that the whole issue of analyzing data and AI, artificial intelligence, tells you the probability that things can happen or how things happen or something like that, or scenarios, and they can predict, but they don't tell you why. They don't tell you if we have an AI system here that can regulate the traffic and can detect from several signs that it's going to be traffic along the road, heavy traffic along the road, because they just realized some signs that the intelligence, the artificial intelligence can analyze that this means in an 80% probability that within 30 minutes you're going to have heavy traffic down the road. But they don't always tell you why. They can predict and they deliver they can answer your need, which is predicting heavy traffic, but they cannot help you solve the problem. They can only help you predict the problem and try to make precautions. It's a bit similar to what happens with medicine. You can analyze, we can see, for example, when it comes to prevention, that certain signs can predict that this patient is like a high probability of developing cancer or whatever disease within a certain time. But it's not always that you can conclude from this data why. What makes in combining these signs or having this profile that this will get you to diabetes or this will get you to another disease. So I think being practical, it's good to use artificial intelligence and data and all the statistics. I think it's important. I think that the bottom line, it gives a great value to insurance companies and providers and all of that. But I still do believe, again, as a physician, that the real value stays in medicine and in science. And I think there should be, we should know that the real investment for improving our health should also include investing in science. And of course, technology, if we want to deliver this faster and reduce waste and all of that.
Okay, I'm gonna have to ask a question that I personally, when someone asked it to me, I didn't like it that much because it's a very generic question, but I'm gonna ask it because it's very, very interesting. Barriers, didn't talk about barriers. When people ask me, so I have a lot of barriers, starting from being Arab woman, located in the north, trying to develop a drug for the aesthetic field. So go figure. What are your barriers as you develop your technologies?
I'm not Arab, but I'm Israeli, which is, and Jewish, which is, we are doing something which is very, very new. And there's a lot of issues there, because we're developing something that wasn't there before. So the first time we showed this to people, the first thing they say, oh, it's a Big Brother issue. And they say, oh, it's like Google Glass, people are going to hate you. Because there's a lot of doomsayers and TV shows that talk about how the future is going to be horrible and killer robots. And if this is so smart, it's going to turn against me, because there's a whole industry about that, right? because fear is a great motivator for people. It's a bad motivator, but it's been working for ages. And so we find it that there's a lot of market education that you need to do. And there's a lot of challenges there. So it's not just the technology, it's understanding what things can or can't do. And I see it a lot because I'm in the field of artificial intelligence. People think, so what's the answer for life, and where are we going? But we're so clever as humans, and we're so doubtful as humans. We always think, someone is cleverer than us. But we're amazing creatures, and we are the ones who've created everything around us, right? The good and the bad, right? And the real question is, how do we create a tool that will benefit society and propel society forward? And as you mentioned the FDA, they say, well, of course, if I know you have a disease and I can come help you, sure, you should tell everybody. Maybe someone will help. But if 10 other people will use it against you, then well, maybe you'd rather not say it, right? It's not always clear. Some things are personal and they're related to us as a person. Some are the group behavior that's going to revolve, right? What's the system is going to look like once things are shared. And we're working hard to define this boundary in a very good way. Mahmoud mentioned GDPR, which is very important, right? You don't want any other entity to abuse information. But it's obvious that we can share information and we can do things that are better. So I think that's part of our difficulty.
Thank you. Doctor?
Okay, so being involved heavily in the Palestinian and the Arab world entrepreneurial ecosystem, you can assume that this issue comes a lot. And the first thing I say is that, one, we need to change the mindset on approaching this issue. It's not barriers, it's challenges. And entrepreneurship is about, facing challenges and solving them. So this is, I think this is, because I always tell my fellows, whether in Palestine or in the Arab world, that you think that entrepreneurs in San Francisco don't have challenges, or in Tel Aviv, they have different challenges. So we'll always have challenges. As a woman, you'll have challenges. As a man, I'll have challenges. This is the way I look at it in first place. And challenges are meant to be faced and dealt with. I think there is a lot. I mean, it depends. There are a lot of challenges. Having my first company being operated like from here, the Arab world, has tremendous challenges, and we managed to deal with all of them. A lot of people thought that we cannot. It's impossible to operate from here. There, just I think yesterday there was a 30 minutes report on Al Jazeera about my first company, and we managed, I managed to be in Kuwait and Dubai and get awards from the presidents and kings of these countries. So I could have looked at it as it's impossible and not solve it. It's of course there are a lot of challenges. I mean, I don't like to look at them, and it's because if I want to just to count the challenges, it's really countless. It's also a matter of perspective, how you look, how your life perspective. I'm an optimistic, so yeah. So I don't. I mean, if you ask me about challenges, I need to think deep and see what really mentions, and have here. Hassan, our product director, he knows that we have challenges whole day, but it's life. It just challenges. You solve it. You go to the next one. You solve it. You enjoy the process and not just the result, and you go on.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I actually think one of our big challenges is mindset, but because we tend to get so caught up in the cool tech that we forget what we're doing this for, which is the human being and trying to improve well-being. If we look at healthcare or health issues today, a lot of them are actually linked to socioeconomic status. And so we're all focusing on this amazing technology, moonshots, in pharmaceutical or kind of AI for amazing applications, which we need to continue to do. But we also need to start or find more innovative ways to address societal issues, differences in socioeconomic status, education, access to clean, affordable housing, access to a clean environment, which will determine, huge differences in life expectancy. If we take the global level today of life expectancy, and we were to cure cancer, right? We find a way to cure it. We would add 2 or 3 years to global life expectancy. If you look at the difference between the most affluent and the poorest people, you have a difference of 14 years of life expectancy. And here I'm saying it's relatively low cost and very high impact relative to the high cost, relatively low impact, even though it's really important to also do investments in that area. And that's where I get to the second mindset shift that we need to have. So first one is kind of, great, technology is an enabler of well-being for humans. But then the second mindset shift is kind of linked to short-term versus long-term, right? Duration. And as an investor, I come across this all the time, right? We're trying to invest in the long term. We have trends that are focusing on kind of 20-year time frames. And I have clients that call me when there's been a blip of 3% in the market the day before. And so when we're looking at these new technologies, as you said, it's very new. And some of this will take time because it involves culture change or lifestyle changes. And that's not going to materialize financially tomorrow. And sometimes we need to be a little bit more, have our mindset in a different place and think about the societal benefits and what we're trying to achieve as a society and as humans. So I think that's really one of the challenges versus bottlenecks that I think we should be addressing, and especially in this high-tech community where you're working on the companies of tomorrow.
Thank you. Actually, I would like to thank 3 of you for being the technologists that will change the world and give us a better world. Do the crowd has any questions? Yeah.
So,
Hassan, it's not the time to ask for raise.
No, not for you. Actually, it was the question. No, just kidding. So my question is about the socioeconomical dimension of this equation. So how do you think this can change, taking the fact that everyone wants to get into the US market? And it's kind of a loop that everyone wants to get there, and we're just making the life of the people that have already good lives, we're just making it better. While 80% of people dying from chronic diseases, for example, coming from low and middle economic statuses. So how do you see this changing with all the impact investments coming and all this stuff?
So I have a lot of faith in the high-tech community and people that are working in these new technologies. There's basically a 3 billion person market to address in the emerging world, where people have a little bit of money, a little bit of means that they would have to invest in their health, to manage their health as an asset, and the education, which is starting to grow, and access to information. But there's no services for these people. And let me give you an anecdote. So I do part of my time work for a nonprofit. And in that context, we started a pilot program with psychologists for children in a very rural part of Peru. There were no psychologists in like a 500-kilometer kind of vicinity. People don't really look at mental health, etc. We thought, okay, one shot, we'll see if it works. We now have entire communities around where we have our orphanage, which is a small thing. We have 2 psychologists. The psychologists are overworked because people are starting to see the value of talking, of exchange. And why are they overworked? Because they're the only service provider of that in that vicinity. So if someone can find that way of bringing, if it's telemedicine or if it's, I mean, you guys are the brains of bringing those services to those people and finding clever business models, that's how we scale that outside to the people that really need it. Instead of constantly focusing on the high margin markets, which by the way are going to be lower and lower margin because of all of the pressures we talked about before.
Thank you.